dead woman found breathing in coffin. So
Okay.
I laugh, but it's not really a funny story because people were hurt. I don't mean to laugh. The whole thing was weird. So
I didn't
Bella,
laugh, by the way. Just make sure that's noticed down.
Bella Montoya, who was 76 years old, was declared dead by a hospital doctor in Babahoya, Ecuador. Um, so I suppose she got in there because she had like there was some, I think she suffered a stroke, and
Mm.
so they took her to the hospital, and I suppose the doctor tried their best to revive her, and then I'm going to make the assumption that they then did the whole, because there's a whole process to doing it, to like how to check the thing. There's a pulse, the breathing, and like I think you have to pinch them somewhere as well, and all these type of
Mm.
things. So I'm gonna assume that the doctor did all of that, and
Yeah.
after having done all of that, she was then declared to have passed, and so long story less long, she was placed in the coffin and then taken to the funeral parlor. And then the relatives, then including her son, had a vigil for her before the burial. So there's, in terms of what happens next, there's two stories. So one story says that after almost 5 hours, they opened the coffin to change her clothes ahead of the funeral. So it's different
Mm.
clothes from the funeral and the wake. And so when they opened it, the woman gasped for air. And so that's where that's where they saw it was, and then she was like twitching at the hand apparently. So that's when they
Mm.
were like, I'm going to assume again because they don't really report it here. That's when they started like, oh my god, the zombie apocalypse is upon us type thing. Like started calling all types of help me God type things.
Mm.
But another story says, and I think this one is actually low key a little bit scarier. Another story says that they started hearing knocking from the coffin. And apparently, like her weak little dainty hands at 76, you could hear like she started knocking on the coffin, like obviously like on the
Yeah.
vibes of let me out type thing. I can't breathe. And so they heard that, and then they opened the coffin and saw that she was still alive. And
Wow.
so those are the two
That
reports.
is scary. That
I
imagine that in a horror film.
bruh, bruh. I think that second one is so much scarier because you're
Because they
just,
probably didn't even notice at first. Like you hear knocking, and
yeah.
then like I imagine a scene where like people are talking, everyone's like like thinking about her, and
Mm,
then you start to like one person hears knocking, and they start to look around, another person hears it, and another person, and slowly the room just goes silent, and everyone's listening, and
mm.
then once it's completely dead silent, you just hear like. And people are like, Where's this come from? Is this a bird?"
Yeah.
And then one person looks towards the coffin, and everyone else is like, "No."
Dios
And
mío.
then they're thinking, so now there's potentially, like, I can, like, when something like that, because you don't, it's not confirmed, but
Nah.
I'm sure, like, people's hearts just, like, start beating fast. Like,
Right.
they're like, "Oh, no, it can't be. Is
Right.
it? Oh my God." And then someone goes and they have they're feeling brave and they go there and they open it and she's alive. Oh my goodness.
Bruh.
That's a 10-minute horror like short film right there.
Bro,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even like, it would take so much from me to be like, oh my god, she's alive, and then hug her. I can't just do that, bro. Like, I'd be so cautious for the next 5 minutes. In the meantime, those
Yeah.
5 minutes are probably like the most critical minutes of if I want her to carry on living for a longer amount of time. Like,
Yeah.
she needs medical attention right away, and I'm there like, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
Oh
she was
man.
just there. You're like, and people are like, someone get her water. You're like, that ain't me. Yo, someone get her water, guys.
Bro, that's crazy.
Mm,
But all of that to say, so they did all this, but they did act fairly fast, and
mm,
they got her back into well, the ambulance came back, and then they got her back to the hospital where she spent a week in intensive care unit.
mm.
um, but unfortunately, Ecuador's health ministry confirmed in a statement on Saturday that Montoya died from an ischemic stroke after spending a week in intensive care. So it's a little bit like because I don't know what state she was in during her time in intensive care. If she was like in a coma, for example, or
Mm.
whatever it may be, or if she was conscious the whole time. But it was like that's such a like your last sort of moments of consciousness. You're in this dark. Th- I'm gonna call it a room, but you're in this dark place, where you can't breathe. There's no air. If the story is you did knock, like how strongly can you really knock at 76 after you just suffered some type of stroke
Yeah,
in the first place, and then you go to the hospital, there's tubes in your mouth type, and then you spend another week just in that weakened state only for you to just go out again
mm.
in a
I hope
stroke.
she didn't go back to that same hospital,
I think she did,
the
cause
same one.
same one, cause I believe
At least
that
they had time to like, like what's the word?
say goodbye and stuff.
Nah, that like the hospital could like save not save face, but they had like another chance.
To make it all right.
Yeah.
So apparently that the son Barbera Montoya, her son said that he hasn't received any report from the authorities on the medical explanation of like what happened to his
Mm,
mum and what happened to all that stuff, and warned that things aren't gonna stay like this. He added that a sister of the deceased woman had formally, so a spokesperson from the health ministry added that a sister of Bella had formally complained about the incident, seeking to identify the doctor who declared her dead to
mm,
begin with.
yeah. I'm just thinking like how traumatizing is that for the family?
Us.
Like for someone to pass away in the first place is like an experience, especially if someone's close to you, it's an experience like no other, right?
Mm,
Like you yeah, you can't explain it unless you've gone
right,
through
right.
it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened, and then they had, I don't know, some hope or
Right.
maybe it wasn't even hope. Maybe it was just like they know she's gonna go soon anyway. So it
Mm-hmm.
was just yeah, I don't know, man.
Or
That's
maybe it
that's
was.
just so painful.
It's possible that they could have had that hope again. I mean, I don't know too
Yeah.
much about Baba Hoyo, Ecuador, but
Mm,
it to me it sounds like a very small town, maybe even a small religious town since it's in Ecuador.
yeah.
So when something like that happens, it's possible that people will sort of mark it down as a miracle. And then
Mm,
now when you have miracle on your side, you have all these types of, you know what I'm saying, optimism and faith and
mm,
all types of things. And then that can build, hope.
yeah.
And then for that to be taken away so quickly, like a week isn't much time.
Not at all, man. Yeah.
Because
If go on.
like you'd already made your peace
Mm,
the first time. Now you have to make it again the second time. It's like that's so heavy on the heart. I would imagine. I'd never been there.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, 100%. I would I'd imagine it as like I can't imagine like losing my mum. Like
Mm-hmm.
eventually it's gonna happen. Either
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go or she's gonna go. But
Mm-hmm.
like I can't imagine that. But to lose her twice, so she's gone, and then she goes again in a week, because that's how I would probably feel. Like she's
Mm-hmm.
died twice.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Thoughts
yeah,
and prayers to the family, man. I hope that they are,
one thousand
you know,
percent.
that they're dealing with it, and you know they have each other and they have the support that they need to get past and get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so allegedly, so I don't know what's happening with the world, but apparently this isn't the first of these cases within like the last couple of months. So
Months.
months. So
The dunya's gone crazy, man.
in February, an 82-year-old woman was found to be breathing while lying in a funeral home in New York State. She had been
Wait, this is New
pronounced
York.
This was in New York. She had been pronounced dead 3 hours earlier at a nursing home.
I wonder how easy it is to pronounce. If this is happening a few times within a month,
Yeah. Yeah.
man. You know what that reminds? Well, not reminds me of. I think back to when we didn't even have all of these techniques and technology and all that kind of stuff.
How
The
many
amount of
people
people that
just
were
died
probably just buried dead. Yeah, they were
alive?
just like eyes are closed, dead, like not moving. Do you hear me? Dead. And they put in coffins as well. Like it's sad to think about how many people probably died in coffins rather than actually
That's
like in a
crazy.
hospital or something.
Yeah, that's so
Mm,
weird to think about. Yeah, you're right, you know. Because I like I said, I'll just repeat it one more time.
mm,
For your last breaths and consciousness to be inside a dark place where you have
yeah,
no air and you can't move, that must be like unimaginable.
mm,
Unimaginable. In
yeah.
um in December last year, an Iowa care facility mistakenly pronounced a 66-year-old resident dead and had her transported to a funeral home where she woke up gasping for air.
Mm.
In 2020, a young woman was declared dead, opened her eyes as she was about to be embalmed. She was about
Ah,
to be bro, like, like, so, okay, cool. You're a professional at this. You're an embalmer. That's your job. You've done this so many times. And, like, you work with the dead. And all of a sudden, you're embalming someone. And then they open their eyes. But I just imagine it to be like, in the movies, when they think they've killed someone. And then the
yeah,
guy just opens his eyes but
yeah,
like, like sharply, like, bah, like that. Just,
bro. Like the Undertaker.
that's That's what I imagine, bro. That's what I imagine. Oh my god, the Undertaker is hilarious because he'll literally be like this, and then he'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's
Oh
crazy. That's crazy."
man.
But so those three other cases were in the U.S., right? And I didn't read too much into them, so I didn't know. But if it was you, would you sue the hospital and the doctor and or the doctor?
I don't know. My first reaction is actually yes. I'm like, yeah, I would do it. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like, how long is that gonna go on for? How long is that chapter of my life gonna continue on? Like 6 years,
Mm,
1 year,
mm,
3 years, trying to sue these people and not actually like letting go and accepting the fact that like my my mum is
yeah.
gone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But
You
this is assuming that it's like she's gone and then she's come back and then she's gone. If if it was, I keep saying my mum, but let's like if it was somebody who passed away and they were actually alive and they continued living, oh, I'm suing. Oh,
100%.
100%.
100%.
No,
100.
no. You
But
no way, bro.
but to me, yeah, if the scenario was exactly like the first one, where I
Mm,
had the funeral, oh, you're paying
yeah.
for the first funeral at least. You're at least paying for the first funeral because there was no need for me to
Mm,
have two funerals, but because you made that mistake, I now have had two. No, you're paying for the first
oh,
one at least. I want that one at least. Um,
man, that's sad. And the person who was supposedly dead, they had all that funeral food around them. They didn't have one bite.
oh yes, Bella, Bella Montoya. Thoughts and prayers to your families and friends.
Yeah.
Like Musin said earlier, I hope all your families and their families and friends have each other to console one another and be there for each other in your passing. You're very traumatizing and very, like, we laugh, we joke, but it's we can only imagine the trauma of this type of tragedy would put on a person. And we hope we never go through it, inshallah.
Yeah. Inshallah.
But moving on to our second story of the day, still maintaining the theme of death, unfortunately. A TikToker